Hola, ¿cómo está?
Hi, my name is Rebecca from the Historical UFO Society. Is this Travis?
Yes.
Hi, I just wanted to call because we're writing an article that I can send to you once we're finished, and I wanted to see if I could gather some info from you about what happened on November 5th, 1975.
Right now?
It's just a really quick interview, honestly, so if it works for you, it would be super awesome, and we'd be forever grateful.
All right.
Is it okay?
What do you want to know?
All right, so your number was given to me by someone that works in our network of people, and it was placed on my desk. I've been super excited to call you ever since I got it. I just wanted to ask a couple questions. So, how are you dealing with the incident now with what happened?
Well, things changed over time. It gradually became more and more of a positive thing to many people. But then all of a sudden, because it had become so famous, I guess, over time, it's a syndrome that happens. They raise it up and then they attack it.
Yeah.
But so many of the issues that were thoroughly discredited back in the day are being resurrected in order to attack the case. Just silly things. So locally, it's almost all positive
Yeah.
as opposed to how it was back in the day.
So you don't feel like you're currently like experiencing any traumas or flashbacks or anything like that?
Say that again?
You don't feel like currently like you're dealing with any traumas from the situation, or do you ever have any like flashbacks or anything like that?
Yeah, there's more to that than I expected. It wasn't so long ago that I was returning from um, a meeting, MUFON meeting in Burbank, California, and encountered this large object, and there were, like 18 other witnesses, but my son said, "Dad, should we pull over and take a picture?" And I said, "No, keep going." And I was surprised at myself that I would have that kind of reaction after that much time. I thought maybe that I would be more calm and able to learn something from the contact.
Yeah. And do you feel like you did learn anything from the experience?
Oh yeah, a tremendous amount. But it's more about human nature than about any information the aliens brought to me. The way that people deal with things they are afraid of or don't understand, and the whole psychology of mob psychology, actually. We see it online all the time, where somebody starts attacking a certain person that's quite well known and quite positively regarded, and all of a sudden they're persona non grata. It's a strange phenomenon.
I understand. Did the ship resemble anything like the ones that were described by Bob Lazar?
Yes.
And how would you describe like the color and the shape and like the temperature?
Well, he worked with the Tester Model Corporation, who makes models for, people who like to build model cars and stuff.
Yeah.
the description that he gave them and the model that was created is really the closest to just about anything I've seen presented in the public.
Interesting. We here at the Historical Society know that your incident is real, but some people are calling it a hoax. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the bottom line is facts and reasoning. They'll say things negative on the basis of what, I would like to ask. On the basis of what? Would you like to be put on trial with the same process that you're employing here? Very often people say, I don't believe that.
Right.
On the basis of what? Something like, I think we're alone in the universe.
Yeah.
Or there's no description of aliens in the Bible, or, whatever. Or I heard a rumor that blah, 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 and even though it's been thoroughly discredited, disproven actually, they just go on as if it hadn't been. The primary attacker back when it first happened was a UFO debunker named Philip Klass, who, after he died, it turned out that through the Freedom of Information Act, it was revealed that the FBI had been investigating him for possibly collaborating with our enemies, revealing classified information. And so apparently they didn't think all that well of him, and he had actually attacked them for having something called Project Blue Book, because the idea that they would even take the subject seriously infuriated him, or seemed to. But he's been thoroughly discredited on the basis of FBI's research into his background. They were looking to see if he had purchased radio transmitting equipment. Things of that nature. So, but large amounts of that FOIA file are still blacked out, still classified.
Right.
Back in those days,
Well,
the CIA was... Never mind, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
No, go. What was your other question?
I was going to say, what do you think was the craziest thing that happened to you during the entire experience?
Oh, well, it was all pretty bizarre. The fear that I encountered upon first seeing these beings, although it was due to my misunderstanding of the situation, was, absolutely the most intense moment of the whole thing.
Do you think that the human figures on the ship were actually humans?
They could have been, but I don't know for sure. All I know is that they appeared to be, and I suspect, and I'm guessing, the idea that they were the one entity that I was not going to continue to be combative with.
I understand that. So now Mike Rogers was there with you during the experience, and he's been saying things that like this incident's fake, and he thought, I thought that he was there with you when it all happened. Are you guys still...
He was there with us when it happened. He passed the lie detector test as to what we all saw. It's only in the last, few years that he's become mentally, it's dementia, I think, or other kinds of, it's mental mental illness for whatever reason, whether it's drug addiction or whatever, he is so irrational, he's delusional. The things he says couldn't possibly be true, and people know they're not true, and he should know they're not true because of things he said previously. And so it's really sad to see somebody just go bonkers like that.
Yeah, that's pretty sad because you guys were pretty good friends, right?
Yeah, but he became incredibly obsessed with jealousy. You know, he couldn't stand going to an event and people rushing right past him to talk to me. You know, I'm not bragging. I'm not that kind of person. I was just, I preferred to sit off in the corner and until they needed me. But it's been an intense obsession with him, and he said some things that make it quite clear. You know, he's basically admitting that, and it's really pathetic that he would say these kinds of things when the proof is right there that they aren't true.
Right. So you think it's just mainly jealousy and perhaps mental illness and drug addiction that's had him all fired up?
Yeah, he was talking about a remake of the movie. He says, that would be the absolute worst thing to happen, and I'll do everything I can to stop it.
Wow, that's unfortunate that he can't
be
supportive.
He actually issued a blackmail statement saying, give me $2,000 by Friday or I will destroy your reputation.
Oh, my gosh.
And of course, I did not pay up on that, and he has been working to destroy my reputation ever since. But I think it's had a pretty bad effect on his own reputation.
Yeah, I'd say, because he looks like the crazy one. Wow.
Oh, he's really whacked. If you look at it closely, but some of the internet trolls are entertained by that stuff.
Yeah, unfortunately, people thrive on drama.
Yeah, it's really discrediting of him to create a false person known as Kim Lardashian, who comes on there and says, Mike, I applaud you for finally revealing the truth about Travis. But it's really Mike. Mike is Kim Lardashian.
Oh, my gosh.
He became very jealous of my appearance with the Kardashians, and so he invented Lardashian. Get it? Lard ass, fat ass.
Wow.
And this is somebody who, is, and he's basically admitted it. You know, he doesn't bother to try to deny it to me, not even once. If you go on the actual site for that person, the person's homepage, there's nothing there. It's just an invention of his.
Yeah, and do you think that the experience that you had with the Joe Rogan interview might have fired him up?
Oh, yeah. That made him very jealous. He is so incredibly jealous. And like he said, the movie would be the worst thing that could happen that would put him back in the limelight and turn him into an effing god. And those are his words, not mine. I mean, the jealous. He's living pretty meager existence right now, but it turns out he would rather be poor the rest of his life than allow a remake to be made just because the attention isn't focused on him. Yeah, of course he would have lots of interviews and lots of attention, but that's not enough for him. He's got to be numero uno.
Right.
Probably the most damning thing about him is that every single person in his life has cut him off.
Jeez. Including his sister, right?
Years ago, just cut him off and will have nothing to do with him. Won't accept emails or, won't respond to anything he says. And yet he's trying to claim that I turned his kids against him.
Wow.
I hadn't talked to them in years when they had already cut him off.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, it's really crazy. I mean, he tells some really crazy stories. Like, he claimed that he became so intelligent that his brains were leaking through a break in the top of his head that happened when he was working, and the digging bar slipped and fell and cracked his head. When he first started saying that, I thought, he's got to be joking. But he told the story 2 or 3 other times, and it's just, desperate self-esteem problems.
Yeah.
Inventing the idea that he went to college when I did. He was not. My job involved going all over campus. He was not there. He even went so far on one occasion to claim that he had acquired a doctorate, all in secret. See, he wouldn't tell anybody back then, but he's saying he's coming out to say it now because he's just so wise and smart, and it's really sad to see the sort of suspicion and what's the word for it? Paranoia.
Yeah.
Constantly paranoid type thoughts. He just out of the clear blue says, "What was Ryan's car doing at your house at 6:30 in the morning?" Well, it wasn't. He was in Phoenix, and why would he even say it like that? It's so strange, He comes in and out of focus, but sometimes when his stuff is the farthest out there, it's really absurd. Like claiming that he had been a cage fighter for years, unbeaten.
Wow.
Well, everybody around him knows him and knows there's not a bit of truth to that.
So he's just kind of a con artist.
Well, he's desperate to raise his estimation in people's eyes, and he, thought that if he could drag Travis down, that would elevate Mike, and it's just not working. People are thinking less and less of him for saying these things.
Well, I'm sorry that you had to go through that with a friend that was close with you.
He was once a good friend. And a very smart guy. When he fought Philip Glass, he won. He beat Philip Glass. Every argument that was written out and published, he just overwhelmingly won the argument.
Yeah, wow. So, do you think that the aliens knew what kind of publicity would occur upon your return?
I don't think they were planning, and it was basically coping with a situation that developed, and I think it was probably an accident.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's pretty intense. Also, I've had an experience myself where I was lying in bed and I don't know if this was a dream or something that actually occurred, but I had a dream that I was abducted into something that looked very similar to a Tic Tac. And there was a lot of weird stuff that happened. I remember it being really cold, and there was some figures. I couldn't really make them all out, but one of them looked more like a human, and it was just a really bright light, and it was hard for me to see. And when I woke up, I had a bunch of scratches all over my back, and it's a pretty terrifying experience. And
sure, yeah.
It actually hurt when I went to the bathroom too.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was just really scary, honestly. So I can't really imagine how you must have felt, because your situation sounds much more intense, but it definitely it can happen to anybody. And, we believe you, and we think that Mike should calm down because he's stirring up a lot of trouble on the internet. And it would be really interesting to have like an interview where both of you talk about your sides of the story, because I know that your story would definitely outweigh his, because his is just completely irrational.
Well, I've said over and over again that, it takes 30 minutes to refute something that takes 3 seconds to claim. And, I can document the things. I have the facts and the proof. But, he never offers such things. He just says, that's the way it is. This is what happened. This is, I'm revealing something. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that is ridiculous.
So he was served with a cease and desist order back in May. And it looks like we're going to have to take legal action, because that's all he does. He has nothing in his life except this little one-room apartment, not one-room apartment, but low-rent apartment and he doesn't really seem to have much in his life other than attacking me day after day after day.
That's unfortunate. He really needs to get a new hobby, because like you're just trying to tell your story and deal with this. And
all I've ever done is just refute what he says. And he says, you really need to quit bad-mouthing me. And it's just so preposterous, the delusion that he has about things of that sort.
Yeah. So do you think that with all the UFO sightings that are happening recently, that there's going to be some greater awakening happening here?
I think that's very possible, the way things are shaping up. Either from actions from the aliens, or reactions that our government has to what they do.
Yeah, I think that social media plays a big role in this as well, because now people are seeing it more often than they would have maybe, back when this happened to you. There could have been other people experiencing it, but there's also a lot of confirmation bias that comes into play here. However, it does seem like with the government releasing this UFO information, which didn't really seem like that much information, that there was going to be something big that happened, and then it was just kind of like nothing really.
Yeah, I think they chickened out. I think the current administration was kind of couldn't when they were stuck in a hard spot, and so they went through the motions. But what was released was really nothing more than they had already released. What was originally planned from the previous administration was something, I believe, much more impactful.
Yeah. And do you think that maybe one day that they're going to take over completely, and that's something we should be fearful of? Or do you think that something different's going to happen, where we're kind of friends with them and they work hand in hand with us?
Well, if they ever make open contact, we will have had to earn it. And right now, the truth is, we're just not worthy of it, and we're not prepared. Humans it would be ultimately destructive for them to be openly in contact right now. So there's a good reason for them to be sort of semi-hidden like that. But at the same time, I don't believe they're hiding because they have any sinister intentions, because if that were the intention, they've been around for decades. I'm sure that they could take over and get rid of humans overnight. We'd never know what hit us if that was their plan.
Yeah. Well, I think that there's a lot of people that are fearful of something, bad happening. And there's a lot of people that are coming up with all these random conspiracy theories and living in fear every day over something that we just completely don't know. And you have people like Elon Musk that are creating this vast technology that, maybe one day we could communicate with them in some form. However, that's also unknown, but it would be really cool.
Yeah, and maybe on a certain limited basis that would be really cool, but certain things would be destructive. Just take one thing: free energy.
Sure.
To have the world economy, which is based on oil, overnight be transformed in that way, the economies of the world would collapse. There would be violence and revolution all over the place. So it's not so simple.
Sure.
But it'd be wonderful to, be given that kind of technology. But I've always thought that the science fiction created the non-interference directive, but it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that us humans tend to do is when we get a hold of something of greater power, we abuse it until it becomes something ugly. And I feel like that would probably happen with that, and we'd take full advantage of it and wear it out.
Yeah, they're not going to say, "Here, humans, here's a brand new box of matches. Go play."
Right. Well, I was wondering if potentially I could schedule another interview with you maybe next Wednesday evening, if that's possible, because the person that we tried to call earlier and I couldn't leave a voicemail because your mailbox was full. But the person that's in my network on my team, they really wanted to talk to you. And
that would be September 1st.
Today is September 1st.
It would be September 8th then, right?
Yes. September 8th at about... it'd be 9 p.m. my time, which I'm sure you're 3 hours ahead of me because I'm on the East Coast.
No, I would not be available at that time because I have another obligation. I've got to get on a plane to go to Utah.
Oh, okay. How about the week after, maybe?
Well, I'll consider it once you ask me again when I get back from Utah, which is the 9th through the 12th.
Okay, no problem. And Travis, I really appreciate your time. I can send you a copy of the article once we release it. And I would really appreciate talking to you again, and super grateful that you took the opportunity to talk to us today.
All right. Well, thanks for calling.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye. Couldn't prank him. He was such a nice guy.
He's so nice. I'm freaking out. That's awesome.
So, yeah, people might have thought that call was boring and it wasn't a prank, and that's okay because it wasn't, and we're just really big fans.